All right, brothers, I'm gonna say something that a lot of you brothers are thinking on a regular basis, but some of you are too scared to say it. A lot of you are in positions where you can't say it, and that thing is that single men have an advantage over men in relationships. And again, I didn't say married men, men in relationships. Single men that are just living their lives solo. I'm not saying they aren't dating occasionally, but men that are technically single have a huge, disproportionate advantage over men that are in relationships, right? Now let me pause. Because anybody that's read my book, A Singular Truth, understands that goes against what I'm saying in A Singular Truth. When I talk about the first marriage of man, a man finding himself, right? And having that ability to transform his life tenfold. I said when that man finds a woman, if she's aligned just like him, he can multiply his world by 100-fold. So I'm not going against this thing I'm not going against relationships the way God created it because in theory, or in fact, a man that gets with an aligned woman, his life is going to just do cartwheels over anybody's, right? But I'm talking about the atmosphere of relationships in 2026. I'm talking about the way the world is now. The way we're moving, the way both men and women are moving, like a single man, like it's not even remotely close. A single man has an advantage. And when I say advantage, I'm talking about he has an advantage of moving forward in life. He has the advantage of becoming wealthy in life. He has the advantage of quantum leaping in life right now if he's single, as opposed to being in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And this is not, I'm saying this not based on some kind of conversation. I don't want to have a conversation like, oh, well, women are toxic and women are doing this and the proverb. It's not even that conversation. Because what I'm saying is even a good woman can hold a man back. Even a solid, faithful woman can be a man's kryptonite in today's relationships. That don't make no sense, soul. It doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot of sense, man. Now, let me say this, man. I love seeing the way women are moving nowadays, you know, as far as women being powerful and educated and business owners and CEOs. I love seeing it. I love the diversity. But if I'm honest with myself, if I'm honest with the knowledge that I've been shown over time, it goes against the power of relationships, and it's put everybody in a bucket of an army of one. So when I talk about the first marriage of man and a second marriage of man, which him getting in a relationship with a woman is going to magnify his life 100-fold, I'm really speaking to an older business model. I'm really speaking to the business model that our grandmothers and some of our mothers, which I call that generation the hybrids, because I believe that was the last generation of women that could kind of live in two different realities, man. It's an older business model because you got to think about this. Like I'm always talking about the power of a truth, right? This conversation is no different, right? Now, going back to the old business model, let me state this first. You have to understand that many moons ago, when a man and a woman got in a relationship, many moons ago, like that woman was being raised to be a good wife. She was being raised to cook. She was being raised to manage a household, how to be a good mother, how to, be all these things. And a man went out the house and he was finding himself. He was finding his mission. So what would happen was a man would be on his mission. That woman would see him. She would be attracted to the way he moved, and she would leap out onto that man. She would become attached to that man and his mission. Now, whatever that man had in place was what that woman was on board with. If that man wanted to change religions, if that man wanted to move to a different city, a different state, if he wanted to change careers, she was all on board. But now when you have these women, and again, I'm not saying it as if it's a bad thing, when you have these women that have their own truths, it's a beautiful thing to watch, but it's a conflict when it's in a relationship. So that's why I'm saying even a good woman, even a solid, faithful woman can be bad for a man on a mission. You know what I'm saying? Because just going straight to the nuts and bolts of it. What you have is, I'm saying like this, what you rarely see nowadays in a relationship is two people living one truth. That's what it's supposed to be. If the first marriage of man is when a man finds himself and that's where he gets the ability to magnify his life by tenfold, then his ultimate goal is to find a woman that's aligned with herself as well, and now she can join on to his program, and now they can put all their energy into one mission. But the key word is alignment. See, you can find a good woman, you can find a faithful woman, and she not be aligned with what you have going on. And I'm gonna tell you, man, if she's not aligned, it's going to end up in destruction every single time. I don't care if y'all are going to church every Sunday. I don't care if y'all have two healthy kids, y'all aren't arguing. If y'all aren't aligned, not only are you going to be miserable, but that thing you're trying to achieve, like you're literally going to be having somebody pulling the other direction. You're going to be having somebody pulling in the opposite direction. And what I mean by that is this, and I'll just have an example. And in my last video, remember I said, hey brothers, I wanted to talk about something, but I'm gonna add this conversation to the next video, right? Like there was a well, let me just say it like this. Let's say for an example, a man, and this is common. Let's say a man has a mission. Let's say he's in his 20s, he's in his 30s, and he's saying, you know what? I'm trying to get to a certain financial level, right? I'm in a relationship, I'm married, but I'm trying to get to a certain financial level. I'm trying to put 20K in the bank. I'm trying to put 100K in my 401K. I'm trying to get $500,000 in some investment portfolio. If that man is single, he's going to do every single thing in his power to make that happen. In other words, he doesn't have to compromise with his truth. Zero compromise. He can go from his apartment. He can go live in his best friend's basement if he wants to, just to make this happen. He can go work all the overtime he wants. He can go get a second job if he wants. He can delete going on vacations. He can stop eating all these fast food restaurants, and that goal that he has in his mind, he can accomplish it. He can accomplish it with ease. You know what I'm saying? But if he has a woman in his life that loves him, that's good to him, that's faithful, but she's trying to keep up with the Joneses, you have to understand she's living, I left my water. You have to understand she's living under the jurisdiction of a whole nother truth, which means all your actions of accomplishing your goal are going to have counter actions by somebody that thinks they have to have the latest purse, by somebody that thinks they have to look and dress a certain way, that think they have to do a certain thing to keep up with the Joneses and the Johnsons. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a bare minimum type scenario, so y'all can understand what I'm talking about. But you have to understand most relationships have more than one truth. And if a relationship has more than one objective, it's no different than like the Bible said, a man that's living divided. A man. What did it say? How did it says a man with two minds. Y'all know the Bible verse I'm talking about. So you have to understand. And the thing is this, like I've been married before. I was married for 10 years. And I can remember when I was married and I had a lot of friends that were single. And I kind of saw the way they were moving and how they were enjoying life. And now, as me not being a married man, I have a lot of friends that were single back then that are married now. And I can promise you that 90% of those brothers that I swapped lives with, not all of them, but 90% of those men would much rather be in a position where they weren't married. And it's not because men don't like love. It's not because men don't want to build legacy with women and play that whole game. It's because it's to the point now where our generation, men can't move forward in the manner that they want to when they have a woman that's pulling in a different direction. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell you, like to a lot of women, what I'm saying, like it doesn't even sound right. It sounds so prehistoric in nature that women are like, I can't even imagine a world where I don't have my own direction in life. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, when you hear these women get online and they're talking about, hey, yeah, you know what? This is how I support my man. This is what I do for my man. X, Y, Z, A, B, C. All these women are saying, oh, she's a pick me. Oh, she wants to be a modern day slave. When they don't understand that's how women used to be. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I said. Like, for example, my mother's generation. I don't know what you call that, Generation Z's and X. I don't know all that stuff. But I believe that age of women, or I call those women, you know, that Claire Huxtable era of women, right? I call those women hybrids, man, because I believe that was the last generation of women that could split the fence. I believe that was the last generation of women that could actually hold down the traditional role of a relationship and be corporate. You know what I'm saying? Like, after that, it starts to slowly fade. You might have a generation after that, man, where a few women can get it, but for the most part, right now, it's 8 or B. And most women are saying, hey, you know what? I want a loving husband. I want all these things, but I want to move like a man moves. I want to accomplish, I want to do all these things like a man does. You know what I'm saying? And it's causing conflict. And again, it may look good on the ground when everybody's doing this and the pictures look good and y'all are taking like, it may look good. That man may even be on the gram in the book smiling, Christmas pajamas and the whole nine. But a lot of these men on the inside, they're saying, hey, you know what? The life I want to live, the goals I want to accomplish, I can't even accomplish them. I can't even accomplish them because it's not matching my truth. I was watching this video yesterday, man, and I started following this couple. They're here in Bangkok. I can't remember the page name. I just saw it for the first time yesterday. And they had moved. They were living somewhere. They were living in a condo. This was yesterday. They just posted this video yesterday. They were living in a condo, and I'm assuming this video, I'm assuming that this condo was a little extravagant. I'm not sure because I never saw it. But they were showing their new condo. And just like 97, 98% of the condos in Bangkok, it was real small, right? And they were going through it, and the wife was explaining the condo, and you could hear in her voice that, like, she probably liked the other one better. The other one was probably more fancier, right? But at the end of the video, when they were sitting there talking, and they were like, hey, what do you like about the new apartment? What do you hate about the new apartment? And she was honest. She was like, you know, this sunbuck is small. It's small. You know what I'm saying? She was honest. But at the same time, in the words that followed that, her demeanor was like, hey, you know what? You're my man. This is the play you call. And yeah, I might want the bigger rooms and I might want the higher floors or whatever the other one may have had. But she was like, I'm on board with what I'm like, this is the play you call. And I'm telling you, man, that's very rare to have a woman on board with the man's decision. You know what I'm saying? Well, think 70, 80 years ago, that was just the way it was. Pop said we move into Dallas, we move into Dallas. Pop said we move into Dubai, we going to Dubai. Everybody's smiling about it. But since women have their own truths now, which again is a beautiful thing, it can cause conflict in a relationship, man. Like kind of what I was talking about yesterday. I want to go back to this real quick, man. Like, and something I spoke on yesterday in yesterday's video. I'll leave a link where I said, like a lot of men are making decisions. A lot of men are purchasing certain things. A lot of men are moving to certain places they live. A lot of men are buying certain clothes, not for themselves all the time, but a lot of times because of the women they're trying to impress or the woman that's already in their life. And later on down the road, those same men will be complaining about things. For example, an example I talked about yesterday, for example, money. For an example, money. You know what I'm saying? And when I really think about it, there's no man that should be over the age of, I'll say 40, that doesn't have, embrace yourself for this word, right? I'm not sure if all of y'all have heard this term, but there is a term called fuck you money. It's called fuck you money. And it's when a man gets a certain amount of money where he can literally say screw the world. You know what I'm saying? In other words, when your job says, hey, you got to go downtown and let them put this stuff in your arm, you can say, hey, you know what? Fuck you. I'm out. Or they can come and say, hey, you know what? There's all these things. Somebody, you have to do this and you have to do that. Like there's a certain level of money where a man can say, screw y'all. I'm out. I'll pay my taxes. I'll give Caesar what's his. But the rest of this, man, y'all can kiss my ass. There's not a man that, in my opinion, there's not a man that should be over 40 years old that shouldn't have that. And I'm not saying a man that's invented something major. I'm not saying a man that's made $1 million or has some corporate job. But I believe every single man that's made some kind of increase in his life, whether it's going from minimum wage to $15 an hour to $20 an hour, over the course of 20 years to 30 years old, that man should have accumulated some level of fuck you money, man. And a lot of people think that number is billions. A lot of people think that number is several millions. But that number is going to be something different in every man's life. And in my opinion, in Soul's opinion, that should be one of the primary goals of every man. Everybody thinks different. But that should be the primary goal of every man. Yeah, getting the bigger house and the faster car and the shinier belt is cool. Let's all get that. But let's get to a point where we can give the middle finger to the world if we want to, man. And the thing is, the reasons why most men aren't there is because we're basing our decisions not like our grandfathers used to base their decisions. Our grandfathers were like, this is what we need. This is where we live. This is how we're going to move forward. This is how we're going to sustain life. This is law. That's how they moved. You know what I'm saying? Now we have all these technological advancements and we can make money online, but our mindset is, I'm not thinking like that. I'm not thinking about being able to be my own author of life. I'm thinking about what this woman is going to like. I'm thinking about how to cater to this woman that I'm trying to get. I'm trying to think about how to keep a smile on my woman's face. You know what I'm saying? And as a result, man, he looks up and 5 years later, 10 years later, when he should have been given the middle finger to the world, living on some island scratching his balls. You know what I'm saying? Now he's sitting there scraping pennies. You know what I'm saying? Complaining about life, living miserable because he chose a certain route. He can't even move like he wants to. So that's why I'm saying, man, men that are single in today's atmosphere of relationships, like it's not even close, have a huge advantage over their married counterparts. It was one brother that commented on the video. I saw it right before I came downstairs to record this, and he was saying, I'm not sure if he said how much he made, but he was like, yeah, he kind of gave me an idea about what his life was like. I'm not sure if it was a number, but he was like, yeah, I made this. He said, and I downsized my life. He said, man, and life is just, and I can't remember what he said. Life is just doing cartwheels right now, in other words. Life is just, think about this. If you're making 50 bands a year, if you're making $75,000, even if you're making $100,000, $120,000, if you're making that money, man, and you're living a certain way, and I'm speaking to all men, I'm even speaking to myself and older versions of myself. But if you're making that a certain kind of money, man, and you're living life like we're supposed to as men, brother, we're living a completely different level of freedom. We're living a completely different level of freedom, man. And I know, man, that, once we just get past the illusion of let me say this, man, because what I'm not saying is this. Let me just get to this. Because what I'm not saying or what I'm not promoting is, men, leave women alone. I'm not promoting that. I'm not promoting that at all. I love relationships, man, because I understand how powerful they are. And to be honest, if you look around yourself, man, you can see some powerful relationships. But I'm going to tell you, those relationships can't be powerful unless they are aligned. unless there's one truth, and both people are aligned to one truth and one goal and one way of getting there. You know, going back to what I was saying, because I don't want to make it seem like it's impossible if a woman is doing her own thing. I don't want to make it seem like it's impossible. But when I talked about that hybrid generation, like for example, this is what I saw growing up. Like I saw my father. My father had a solid job. Plus, my father was a minister, so his time was pretty much strapped. If he wasn't working, he was in his office studying for his next sermon or his next Wednesday night Bible study. Right. My mom, you know, she was well educated and had a solid job for many years. At some point became an entrepreneur and lived that life, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, going to work, coming home in the evening. Even though my mom had that life, even though she had that entrepreneur life, you know, doing like things that a lot of only men were doing back then, she was still holding down the household. She was still coming home and cooking meals and all these things. Even though my father had his own thing with the ministry, my mother would get off work and be up in the middle of the night typing his sermons and supporting his vision as well. So that's why I call that generation the hybrid. Now you really don't see a lot of women that can do that. It's either or. It's either this, and this is the whole pool again. Even if you had, like, say for example, you have a woman and she's this busybody, corporate America, I can do my own thing. That's a beautiful thing. But most women that are in that energy, first off, a lot of them have masculine energies. And second off, they're leaving a void. And I know this is going to sound sexist and misogynist, but a lot of them are leaving a void at home at things that aren't done. So now you have two people living in this masculine energy, in the household is lacking feminine energy. And when I say feminine energy, I'm not saying that the household lacks a woman. And I'm not saying a household lacks cooking and cleaning, which you could speak on that. But when I say the household lacks feminine energy, now I'm talking about the power of women. Now I'm talking about the power of women. And to be honest, the reason why a lot of women want to choose the masculine route is because they don't understand their feminine power. A lot of women have no idea. They have no idea that when they see a man go out in corporate America or go out to the plant and he's working out there for 20 years and he's getting raises and he's busting ass and he's doing that and he's working hard. A lot of women don't understand that what they're supposed to do inside the household is just as, dare I say, maybe even more important than what he's doing. Because that woman has attributes, that woman has the ability to, like part of her feminine power is to, like what she has the ability to do is, and I've said this before, men, but to create an atmosphere. Women have a superpower that they have no idea how to implement it into a relationship. And I'm not saying I'm the perfect guy to do it because I'm not a woman. You would have to go to one of these guru, well-rounded women to get that information. But a woman has the ability to take a man's vision and literally paint that picture for him. She has the ability to literally create that aura in the household, where when that man comes off work and he walks in that house, if his goal is to be the CEO of that company, he's going to feel like the CEO when he walks in that house. If his goal is to build a startup or to do XYZ, she has the ability to create that energy around the household. But if she's outside doing the exact same thing that he's doing, then who's painting the picture? Who's creating the vision? So now you have a man on a mission, and energetically he's in a relationship with another man going in a completely different direction. This helpmate that he brought into his life, she's not even fulfilling the role. Hence why I say, man, single men have a drastic advantage over his counterparts that are choosing to be in relationships. And again, that's not a shot at relationships, nor am I even talking about the negative aspects of a woman. I'm talking about a good woman. A good woman can hold you back. A good woman, if not a lion, can hold you back. So all I'm saying is this, brothers. Think wisely. Think wisely, man. And to be honest, this conversation, this is not even a conversation for all men. A lot of men are saying, hey, so I hear what you're saying, but a part of what you're saying I can't identify with. And I'm going to tell you why. This conversation only means something to certain men. I'll say it like this. This conversation only means something to men with vision and with men with direction. I'm going to say it again. This conversation only applies to men with purpose. Let me say it like that. We can identify with that. Because you got to understand, it only identifies with a man with purpose. Like if you don't really have something you're trying to achieve, you're really just scratching your head saying, I hear what you're saying, but I have to have a woman in my life. And the reason what I'm saying only applies to a certain amount of men, because there are a group of men that they live their life where their purpose, or since they lack one, their purpose is a woman. Like I've always said this, man, if a man doesn't have purpose, if he doesn't have something to pour that God essence that he's receiving into, if he doesn't have something to pour that into, a vessel, a tool, some purpose, he's 99.9% going to pour it into a woman. 99.9% he's going to pour it into a woman. That other 0.01%, that small group of men is going to pour it into crack. He's going to be a crackhead. He's going to get his fulfillment off of some drug. The others are going to pour it into a man. So even to look out in society and see men that are miserable, to look out and see men that are in relationships and they're scratching their heads saying, hey, you know what? My woman, like she's a good woman, like, but there's something in me, man, that like I'm hating life. But since this feels normal, since I don't know what else to pour my God energy into, like I'm just going to call this normal. And since you have so many people calling it normal and you have this invention of the World Wide Web, everybody is calling it normal. Except men that are living for a reason. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say this. When you're a man and you're living for a reason, when you're a man and you're living and you have purpose, having a woman in your life is going to take a back burner. I'm going to pause and let that soak in, man, as this baby in the background continues to play with this squeaky tool. It's all good. It's all good. I'm just glad to see a healthy baby outside walking. When a man locks into his purpose, yes, he desires women. Yes, he desires relationship, but only if it's in alignment. Because when your purpose ranks over everything, and when you really about that life, it's to the point, man. It's to the point where anybody that's going to affect me living and doing what I'm supposed to do, it's not even worth it. And knowing that 95+% of women that want to come in your life, I'm not saying they're bad, but they aren't going to be able to align with you. Even if they think about this, and this is what makes it so rare. This is what makes it so rare. Now I understand why the Bible talks about the Proverbs 31 woman. She's rare because even if you have a woman that's saying, hey, you know what? I'm all on board. I want to come into your world and be 100% on your mission. It's like, wow, like you're rare. But then you have another box that must be checked. Have you found self? Have you married yourself yet? Has your higher self and your lower self become one and brought God into your world? Because if not, when you come to my world, you're going to be robbing the God from me. I'm gonna pause there for a second, man, because you have to understand. A lot of men, even a lot of these men in the red pill space, it's not that they don't like relationships. It's not that they don't believe in harmony and love and all this stuff, and some of them. But the thing is, man, they don't want to be robbed of God. And if you're with the person that hasn't found self, man or woman, if you're with the person that hasn't conducted the first marriage of man, and you get in a relationship, they're gonna feed off of you. They're gonna feel that God in it. Not saying they're a bad person at all, because they're not all the time, unless they're on some Proverbs 5 shit. But if they haven't found self and they're just like, hey, you know what? I'm just a good person, and hey, I found a good man, and hey, let's love each other. If they haven't found self and plugged into God, then when they get with you, unintentionally, they're gonna be sucking the life out of you. Sucking the life out of you, man. So men of understanding know this. They understand that relationships are a beautiful thing, but they understand that, hey, you know what? It's not a game I can play if I'm always traveling this path. And with what the world is doing right now, man, you have to come to the conclusion. I've come to the conclusion. I'll leave it at that. That single man just have a major advantage over men in relationships.